strange happened. I looked up and saw an organ grinder walking towards me. He had a music box slung over his shoulder on a braided leather strap, and he cranked the handle of the organ while a little monkey, dressed in a tiny jacket with brass buttons and wearing a red hat, ran up and with a tin cup, begging for money. The man must have just gotten off the ship from England because he didn't look like anyone else there. I had a good laugh, and I enjoyed hearing something in English again. I stayed for that one too. It was one that I learned when I was taking piano lessons. Started another song, and I noticed that he had a little black and white Jack Russell Terrier with him. The organ grinder snapped his fingers, and the dog did all kinds of tricks while the music played. He walked on his hind legs and then sat up and begged, and at the very end he laid down on his front legs just like a bow. He was a really smart little dog. And brought the smell of roast lamb and lentils. Then it all came back to me. I was starved. So I followed my nose to a tent and bought a plate of food, which I sat on the floor and ate, along with a steaming cup of tea. still a lot to see in the bazaar, so I kept walking. Guess what I saw next? A procession of camels. A few of them had riders, but most of them carried crates strapped onto their backs. They must have been taking supplies somewhere in the desert. Like to ride a camel, and I knew I wouldn't be long before I found out, because that's how we were traveling to the next village, 3 days away in the Sahara. That evening, after everything was packed and ready to go, I lay down on my cot and tried to imagine what it would be like to cross the desert on Camelback. Soon after the sun went down, the village became very quiet, and I heard an unusual sound. It sounded like dripping water. How could that be? I thought to myself. I'm in the desert. It was a beautiful sound, and I realized after a few moments that there was a fountain not far away. What I was hearing was the sound of water splashing from one level of the fountain to the next. I must have fallen asleep to the sound of the water, because the next thing I knew, there was bright sun shining in my eyes. It was time to leave, and I was so excited. As fast as I could, I washed my face and quaffed a cup of coffee and ran out the door to our meeting place. There they all were, 8 camels loaded with supplies, 4 that my colleagues and I would ride, and several handlers dressed in long robes and turbans. I handed my pack to the handler and climbed onto the back of a kneeling camel. The driver gave him a quick flick with a leather strap, and as soon as the camel stood up, I could see over everything. Throughout the village, there was smoke rising from dozens of small fires where people were fixing breakfast and preparing food that they would sell later in the bazaar. To the west lay a vast stretch of desert, the Sahara. It seemed like forever until everyone got all their gear onto the animals and ready to go, but finally we were on our way, swaying from side to side as the camels formed a line and we left the village. while. After an hour, my legs were stiff and my bottom was sore, and I would have given anything to be riding in a jeep or on one of those Arabian horses I saw the other day. Of course, that wasn't possible, so I stayed right where I was on the back of that camel and hoped that this first day would be a short one.